Well, hey everyone, I'm your host, Gentry, and welcome to the Vibrant Life Show. This show is all about exploring the passions that God has placed in our lives and the purpose He's placed on our hearts to reach the community He's placed us in for such a time as this. So whether we're hearing stories of those living out their passions, helping you discover your purpose, asking hard questions, or leaning into cultural moments, the hope of this show is to remind us that the life that we're called to live is an adventurous one, a meaningful one, a purposeful one. We are invited to live the vibrant life. And wouldn't it be way easier to live the vibrant life if we were taught a lot of these things in college? I feel like there's so many things that if we had it in our tool belt that would have been a class in college, it would help us later on in life. And to talk about that, because I love this subject, because I'm very why didn't we have classes like this before? Right. Is my friend Bri Johns. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, she's a speaker, writer, pastor, author, used to work at Radio Disney. She really leads, she coaches, she works with many ministries right now, helping them build up their ministry as well. And she's pretty much had a hand in youth ministry and women's ministry and creative arts. And I love that God has brought our paths together, Bri. And so I'm just thankful that you're here and we get to talk about this today.
Me
so
too.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you just share just a brief little bit about who you are and what we're talking about today, how that came to be a development and a passion for you to you know what, I'm going to put these things down and we're going to talk about these things.
Right. Who I am. So I'm a pastor, like you said. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up desiring to be a pastor, but got into communication and radio and did Radio Disney, and that was really fun. And God really opened my story to be shared with other people. So I have a lot of things that happened in my past, like trauma and experiences that really have helped others gain hope when I share them. So more and more opportunities to pastor and love people as I came to know Christ. So that turned into a 20-year career.
Did God trick you into it?
Yeah, totally. It was
That's what I always say. I didn't.
It was like I came to know the Lord in high school, and I never wanted to leave that community that loved me so well. So I stayed as a volunteer, and then I got hired and went to Bible college and all the things while I was working in radio and doing other things. So yeah, very much feeling like there was a lot I was not prepared for in life in general. And then there was a lot I was not prepared for in college. So I went to college for speech communications and really was I'm going to be a broadcaster. This is my thing. I even had the job before I had the degree completed. And then God was like, no, you're going to be a pastor. You're going to love these people around you really well.
Why me?
Yeah, you're going to share more of your life. You're going to do more of this. And so I went to Bible college and learned more about the Bible and ministry and church ministry. And then I realized when you're launched out into the world, now it's just nimble learning. Now, everything that you learned in college may have been textbook and it's book smarts, not street smarts. And so you get into it and you learn that people are messy, and you learn that leadership is really hard and sometimes lonely. And so one of the jobs in ministry I had was leading a leadership institute. So we would take 8 or so college residents or college graduates, and they'd be residents with us for a year at this church I was working at. And I created this curriculum for them to be able to be fully prepared in a year to launch into ministry, either in the marketplace or at churches, and that they were really prepared with everything I did not learn and everything that some of my pastor friends and leader friends learned along the way. So they would come and share this amazing wisdom. And I thought, I need to write my own lesson on things I didn't learn in college. I really wish somebody would have told me. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I'd bring that today so we could talk about it, and we'll get through as many as we can over the time, but there's a lot.
Yes.
But first off, I think everyone needs to know that they're a leader. And I love leadership. You're a leader in your home. You're a leader as an example in your neighborhood and with your friends, and you're a leader whether or not you're on a stage or whether or not you're serving behind the scenes. You're a leader. You're leading something. You're an evangelist. You are helping others know who Jesus is. So there's a lot of responsibility in that, but there are some things we need to know about how to navigate that.
Yes. And I love that you believe that too, because that's a core belief of my own, which is actually from my dad too, where he for years always said, well, everybody's an influencer. Everybody, and that's before social media took that word influencer onto another level. And now it's a lot more common even in church world that like everyone is a leader because you have impact on the people around you. You have the influence and you have the ability to do that, but we're not really trained in that.
No.
And so one of your points that
How could you either? How could you be trained in every personality type out there in the world? Like if everyone's created in God's image, I always like look at people and go, wow, that's a new one. Like everyone's a part of the prism of who God is.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways that people need to be ministered to. So
yeah. Well, one of the things you mentioned, and this is one of your points, and I love this, so I really am excited for you to dive into this one, is what is the difference between a here I am versus there you are person in leadership? What does that mean? And how do we navigate that?
Yeah. So imagine you're walking into a room and you're about to go into a room of people that you do not know. Maybe it's a party, maybe it's a ministry, or maybe it's a team, like it's your coworkers or somewhere new that you're about to be a part. And so as you walk in, the mindset you should always have is to be a there you are person. So a here I am person walks in, and I always say like the term being self-conscious, really being conscious of yourself in a room, like all you're in your head of like, what's that person think? What should I do? Am I sitting or are my hands okay? Like, what do I do with my hands? All the things, that is the here I am person. You walk in very, very conscious of yourself and you rob yourself of the experience in the room. But if you can walk into a room and be a there you are person, if you're walking in really curious about the people in front of you, really curious of who are you? Hey, let me know who you like. Tell me about yourself, and really genuinely interested in whoever's in front of you, no matter what their pay grade, no matter what type of, they may be stinky, they may be uncomfortable. There may be something interesting to learn. And that really helps you grow in your leadership. And Jesus is really good at this. Mm-hmm. Jesus walked into opportunities, rooms and places all the time where he was a there you are person, a I see you person, I value you person, you matter person, tell me about you. I'm going to be here and protect you and love you for who you are. And I think if we can get out of our heads and not be a here I am, not be try and just really focus on in the room, I'm going to be a there you are person, I think our experience will be a lot more, it'll be deep.
Yeah, that reminds me of the story of Jesus when he's defending the woman with the Pharisees, or maybe the disciples actually, and no, it was the Pharisees, and he says, "Do you see this woman? Like,
right?
She's standing right here, but he's talking to them. Like, do you see her?"
Jesus saw women, Jesus saw children,
right.
Jesus saw sinners, Jesus saw Zacchaeus in a tree. Like Jesus was a there you are person.
Right.
All the time. The greatest example, the greatest leader of all time, to be an example, to model after of how we should really just be in this world. And I think that when we are here I am people, we got to really check ourselves as far as our insecurities, our unmet needs. What are we looking to receive as we walk into a room with this here I am mentality? Are you looking for praise? Are you looking to be noticed? Are you looking to be loved? Is there something that's missing there that probably needs to be healed up because you are so conscious of yourself in the room?
Wow. Yeah. I think most of us have been around some leaders that you're like, okay, that's a here I am versus how you feel when you're around a there you are person. And so it's like, think of those situations that you've been around that or in a place of leadership underneath their leadership, and then let that motivate us to be the there you are. Because I know there's sometimes we are here I ams, but it's being that self-aware, self-conscious of what we're doing in a room, because it matters how we think about our posture.
A person that you've witnessed in a room being a here I am person, constantly taking over the conversations, being really loud, or being really, sometimes there's a person that's just very victim mentality. That's always about them and it's always about what they're going through. So a here I am person, you just look at them and go, you're not healed. Like there's something you're searching for in this room that is causing you to not see everybody else that's here. But then think of people in your life where you've been in a room with them and they are there you are person. They are warm and they are joyful, and you feel like they're not trying to get attention. They're actually like making me feel really like I matter, and I walk away feeling better because I know them.
Because you feel seen.
because you feel seen.
Yes,
It's a
absolutely.
huge leadership quality.
Yes, which we find out later, usually because we felt the other end of it. So we're like, we don't want to do that. That's one of those leadership lessons of what not to do. Like I learned what not to do through that experience. And I love it. What's the second, as we move into the second point here, it says, listen to what your anger is telling you. So the first one is be a there you are person, not a here I am. But the second point is listen to what your anger is telling you. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Okay, so when I first started in ministry and I was like a young leader, I remember really struggling in some of the changes of, plans or people not going along or not following. And so what's wrong with my leadership and just getting frustrated. But I would often find myself in tears and went through a lot of different struggles in ministry. And ministry is just really messy in general. It's really vibrant and amazing, but it's also got a lot of challenges. And so the church I was a part of had all of us pastors going to counseling to just process through some of the major things that we are a part of to help people sort out. And so I remember this counselor sitting across from me. She's kind of like a life coach. I loved her. She was my own little Dr. Phil. And I didn't need to be like psychotherapized. I just needed somebody to give me some perspective. And her response to me as I'm crying about how frustrated I am about ministry is, do you realize that you're a pretty angry person? And I was like, angry person? Like I'm not raging on anyone. Like I know I'm Italian, but I am not screaming at anyone. I'm not angry. And she goes, Kayla, let's talk about anger as this symptom to a deeper issue. She goes, whenever I see somebody who's struggling and they are frustrated and I can see it come out in tears, I can see it come out in despair or reactiveness. It comes from one or two different things. Number one, it comes from either fear or it comes from entitlement. So she goes, you're reacting to a lot of things that are happening around you, have nothing to do with you. And so I want to ask you, what are you afraid of? Like, what might you feel like you're losing? Or what do you feel like you don't have control of? Or what do you feel entitled to that you're not getting? And she's like, those are the two questions beneath anger, besides righteous anger, where we see something unjust and you're like, okay, now I'm angry, but that's different. But
and even in that, you have to check motives.
Absolutely. But listening to when your blood starts to boil, when you're getting angry or hyped up or you're reactive or you want to send that email or you feel like you need to defend yourself, there's no need to be passing along in this life, living in this life where you're reacting to everything that's around you.
Right.
That's your anger is trying to tell you something. There's a deeper issue that you haven't dealt with as far as fear or entitlement.
Yeah. And then once you noticed that, how did that change your leadership?
I think it was a really good kind of measuring stick for me. It was almost like a thermometer of I can feel how I can sense how I feel in a room and I can adapt to that. I can ask myself deeper questions before I respond. Am I responding out of fear or entitlement, or am I actually really curious about what's happening in this room? So when something sets me off, I'm a little bit more aware of that. It's a spidey sense, I guess you could say. Just listen to your anger. If you're having some type of fear, your stomach is dropping, your heart is beating really fast. Well, maybe there's something there.
Right. I could have used that earlier on. Things I wish I learned in college. That's why it's called this. But I mean, literally in the last year, that would have been way helpful with my life.
Yes.
I love that. The third one, if you're just joining us on the Vibrant Life Show, I'm here with Bri Johns, and we are talking about things we wish we knew in college about leadership.
The things we wish.
With things that it would just make a lot of things go a little bit smoother in our lives. And that's why we're talking about it today, just to help people, even if you're 75. We hope that this is helpful. The third one is very interesting to me, and it's very critical. These are conversations you and I truly just had. But it says, be authentic. That's when you're wanting to be 100% you all the time with everyone is not wise, especially as a leader.
It's not.
Why is that not wise? And how much should we really put that on display then?
So this goes along a lot with that group of young college graduates who got out of college, and in what they had learned is that they should always kind of share what they feel every single time they felt it in meetings. I want you to understand that authenticity is really important, but when you are verbally, throwing up all of your like you haven't thought through every single feeling that you're having before you connect, before you being more deliberate with your words. So being authentic is not always, like 100% of the time, is not always wise. And I think part of that is because you can put yourself in situations that are unsafe. Or later you have a vulnerability hangover, right? Because you shared way too much. You were too, not authentic. You were actually a little bit, I don't know how you want to say it. Like you overshared. And then you
Emotionally.
I
You can
often
say
use the
it.
term, so I use the term emotionally slutty. Like you shared too much. And now, honestly, I think that this is just a word to the wise, that not everybody has your best interest in heart.
Right.
Not everybody is a safe person to share all your things with. And that's really hard to wrap your mind around in working in ministry, because you think, well, we're all Jesus followers. We're all going to receive this information that I'm sharing with you, and we're going to use it for good, or we're not going to use it at all. We're going to protect.
Right.
And there are still sinners that work inside church. All of us are sinners. There's still brokenness, and somebody might use your vulnerability in a way that harms you, or a way that keeps you from opportunity. You could be labeled an emotional person in a meeting.
Yeah.
You could be in a situation where somebody misread what you were trying to say. And so just being really, I guess, deliberate in the things that you're trying to say, thinking things out before you just want to share every thought and every feeling. You see this sometimes on like Facebook with some of like the older crowd, when people are just ranting all their feelings out and they're not fully thought out. It's just like that you're opening yourself up for probably a war, or for an opportunity to feel misunderstood and alone. And that gives anxiety. That harms your leadership and moving forward, because now you've put it all out there and you are left to worry about, what is that person going to do with the information that I shared?
Right. It feels very, very vulnerable when you've done it. And I think one of the keys could be too is making sure you still have people around you that you can process.
Yes.
But in leadership, knowing when and where.
It also can harm your team too. I think it's like really hard when you lead teams of people and you want to be real with them about the situation that's going on, but you got to lead them somewhere. And so when you are sharing your thoughts, your feelings and thoughts on the situation, even if they're just raw or in the moment, are magnified to them, because you're taking them somewhere. If you're not stable about where you're going, or if you're feeling emotions and you're spewing that out and it's unfiltered, your team now is carrying that. You've just burdened your team with your own fears about where you're going. And I would say probably in the pandemic with 2020, there was a lot of that, because we were all confused about what was happening with the world and what ministry would look like, or
businesses and
everything.
Yeah, absolutely everything that you would share, and everybody's going through this personal struggle as well. And it's almost like we were bonding while we were saying it, but then afterwards I thought, oh my goodness. Like I know what it feels like leading, Bible studies and sitting at the same table. Sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't need to share all of that. I should just let them speak, because I'm actually there as a leader instead of
being a there you are person.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Yeah. Like, here I am. Here's my emotions.
And I please don't hear, I'm not saying like bottle it all up and just, deal with it on your own. Like, that's not what it is, but it might not be wise to be authentic with every single person 100% of the time.
Right. And isn't that scriptural where he says, be careful with what you share. And even like Paul did that after he was saved. He went and he was like 3 years away, and he learned and he did what he needed to do before he was out there. There's such wisdom in making sure we have boundaries, especially in leadership when people are looking to us. That doesn't mean we're hiding things, and that's key, is that we're not trying to hide things because something's bad's going on. It's actually we're doing it out of
right. We should never be hiding. I was just thinking of leaders in either ministry or the business world who have something that they're hiding and they're holding on to, and it might be a personal struggle, and it just becomes worse if you keep it all to yourself and you're trying to deal with it all on your own. So don't do that. Again, just finding the right people to be vulnerable with and authentic, the people who can protect you and actually challenge you and hold you up when you're struggling, but authenticity all the time. Like I always fear when somebody gives somebody a microphone, like on a stage, and it's like, just say whatever you want to say on the stage to the congregation right now. And I'm like, oh no, be really careful in the words that exit your mouth. And it's the same thing. You could be somebody's example of Christ, and not that you're performing, not that you're becoming somebody, but you need to constantly be showing that you're transforming.
Right. And that you've healed. Because I think that you can share a lot of details from a place of a healed spot publicly. But if that's an open wound, which never goes well when you do that,
all over everybody
else.
And that's a burden for people who are listening. Now they're carrying it with you.
Right. Mm-hmm. But if it's a healed space, it gives them faith that they can move forward in their journey and know that God can heal and redeem and transform.
That's what we should be doing. Right. We should be speaking from the pulpit or from our platforms, wherever we are, about how we are transforming, how we are changing, how we are evolving, how we are learning. And it's okay to say, hey, right now I'm still learning, and not to just give all of the full vent of whatever we're going through.
Right. And the fourth one, the last one we're going to jump to. So the first one is to be a there you are person.
Yes.
The second one is to check your anger. Where is that coming from? And the third one is to be authentic, but you don't have to share 100% of everything 100% of the time. Not wise, y'all. Not wise.
Yes.
But the fourth one is make sure to check your rearview mirror often. Mm-hmm. I love that analogy. What does that mean in leadership?
Yeah. So in leadership, I would say it goes along with like hustle culture, right? Like grinding and achieving and doing really awesome things. And oftentimes we forget to check the rearview mirror where we've come from. Or just even in life, not just as leaders, but the things that we've prayed for. I love people that keep prayer journals and they go back months before or years before and see what they prayed for and that God actually provided. I think so often we can miss out on kind of the secret sauce of life by not celebrating all that God has done, because we're so focused on the next thing. And I think it's troubling because we sometimes blow past something that's been really, really exciting. I love the hymn, Come Thou Fount. Like, here I raise my Ebenezer, and just let's create moments where we have Ebenezers, these stones that are stacked that represent what God has done in our life, so we can go back to those things and really look in the rearview mirror to, motivate us to continue going in life when there is uncertainty. And so often we are looking straight ahead. We're looking on our GPS 50 miles down the road of who we're becoming or where we're going, and we're worried about those steps, and we forget how far we've come.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times, because leaders are doing new things that's kind of in your wiring, is to just go to the next thing and the new thing. But so often we don't celebrate. And I don't know, have you experienced where when you don't celebrate it, your team actually hurts because of it?
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's fatigue, when you're not able to, when we're pushing, and we're trying to move something as a team, or we're trying to collectively get together and achieve something together. I think it's just so appropriate. We spend so much time of the pie chart of like the project on creating and executing. And then the small, like, let's throw a pizza party to celebrate what we just did. Or even in your family, like, let's do something really fun because this person got this award at school or whatever. Yeah. But I think that we probably need to reshape the pie chart of how we celebrate, and calling back to those Ebenezer moments regularly of what God has done and what God is doing. Because again, I think it helps us understand that this life is not about us. This is about living surrendered. This isn't about living so you can achieve more and you can become more. This is about surrender. So when you surrender and you actually can see where God showed up, it will help you in just your perspective of what my purpose is here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so much thankfulness comes from pausing.
Yes.
And to have that thankful heart really helps us lead others well too.
Yes.
If we're not in that place of anger, even celebration probably combats that along the way.
Yeah. And I would say celebration is motivating. Like when we celebrate, it's like, we did that. What can we do next? What can God do through us? This is amazing. Mm-hmm. And being able to praise up those people in front of you that were contributing a lot, sacrificing a lot, and just showing that that is exactly what this is all about. It's not about just getting to a point and then moving to the next point. Right. It's not just grinding for the sake sake of grinding. That's not a way to live. There's an ocean of things to experience in life, and I think there needs to be more seashells collected along the way. All those moments of like, God, you're amazing. And we had this moment, and it's so fun too. It's really, really fun.
It makes the journey way more joyful.
Yeah.
It really does, because then it cultivates community as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, this has been so good, Bri. Thank you so much for just this wisdom. You're always dropping wisdom, though. So
I love it.
If people want to continue listening in or contacting you, how would they do that?
They can find me on my website, brijohns.com, or I'm on Instagram and all the social medias. It's _Bri Johns. And yeah, I'd love to connect and help other people.
And she's a great speaker, y'all. So if you need anyone along the way, go ahead and contact her through her website. Bri, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for joining me on the Vibrant Life Show. I would love to connect with you and get to know you. My favorite place to hang out is over on Instagram at ali.gentry or over on Facebook. You can also go to my website, aligentry.com. That's ALIGENTRY.com. Sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date and get links to the show on all platforms after we air, the show's YouTube channel, and really just all the things. I am so honored to get to hang out with you today. My heart is that you remember that each day is an invitation to live the vibrant life.